All right, so we made it to week 9, guys. Week 9. So this is the last class, or our next class will be the last one. And we'll talk afterwards if next week is the best week. We need to skip a week. But we'll talk through it. Here goes Mike right here. All right, here we go. Hey Mike.
How's it going, Julius?
We're good. We're just starting. I was saying this is week 9, and we got one more after this. So and I was saying, well, we'll talk afterwards to see if next week is the best time or skip a week. And I know Mike on your side, I know you like, no, get it, let's get it done.
Yep.
That baby
I'll
is on.
try. I'll call it short soon. So
Yes, yes. We may meet tomorrow, so let's do week 9, week 10 tomorrow. But no, we'll see. We'll talk through it. I'm pretty
okay.
sure we should be good. But let's go and get started. So week 9, choices and actions. That's what we're talking about today. And, that should say week 9. Yeah. But yeah, week 9, choices and actions. Helping people process information in order to make healthy choices is the hallmark of coaching. That's what we'll discuss in these slides today. And also, choosing is something people get to do, opposed to something people feel they have to do. So we'll talk through that. And then making choices helps facilitate a game plan or strategy that directs productive action steps. All right, let's split this up. All right, Mike, can you take awareness and vision, the first two? And then Jesse, can you take obstacles? Wait, I feel like you always reading obstacles and support, Jesse. Tony, can you take obstacles and support? And then Jesse, can you take the last two, strategy and actions?
Number one, awareness. Where is the client now? Assemble the real story needed to gain valuable insight and perspective. 2, vision. What is their specific goal? Specifically define client goals, including the mission, meaning, and desired outcomes.
Obstacles. What stands in the way? Expose and clearly define the inner and outer obstacles that block the client's progress. Support. What can support their success? The things that clients need to add or remove to help with their goals.
Strategy. How is the client getting there? A detailed game plan that can be adjusted with game clarity as the process progresses. Actions. How is the client willing to take actions? Getting commitments for regular small steps that will incrementally move the patient or sorry, the client forward.
All right, so let's dive into this. Making choices. Diving into making choices. So your choice is your voice. So yeah, choice is the opportunity or power to choose between two or more possibilities. Um, and there's, that's what you want. That's what you want is numerous choices, realistic choices for the client to choose from. Some scientists hypothesize that the average person makes over 30,000 remotely conscious decisions or choices every day. Your choices reveal your true self, both to outsiders and yourself. Your choice is your voice. Actions speak louder than words. And then the question I have right here, what questions are you and our clients making that go against your values? So that's something you think about too. It's just like with those choices, there's some choices that go against, certain values. That's what you gotta contend against as well with those choices. Like this choice should line up with the client's values. And then choices define strategy. Choices are the foundation of the strategy. and action phases in our coaching model. Client choices clearly define strategy by providing the necessary details to move forward. And then if coaches never strategize with their clients, they're not coaching, but merely having a conversation. If coaches never ask for action steps, nothing will ever happen. And that's why we say at the end of every session, there has to be some type of action items going on, some type of strategy going on. Because I've sat with a therapist or a coach, well, a therapist for myself, and it's my first time doing it, and we were just going back and forth. I just felt like I was venting. That's all I was doing. I was venting because there wasn't any actions afterwards. Every time we met, just us conversating. And so, and I mean, in that situation, I felt like, okay, I guess God just wanted me to have, just somebody to vent to, but not have not have a therapist. But coaches, we strategize and help the client move forward. That's the big thing. So the thing is, what is this telling us right here? The main thing is strategy is critical. So as a coach, strategy is critical. If we don't have a written plan, then we don't know where we're going. And so that's where we want to be like, okay, make sure the client is writing these key things down, writing these action items down, writing this strategy down. That's a big thing too. It's not just lip service. We're not just talking just to be talking. It's just like making sure they actually writing this down. Like, hey, you writing this down? Make sure you write this down. Checking in with them, keeping them accountable to writing down that strategy, writing down the action items. And just think so. This is why when we meet after the 10-week certification, if you sign up for that, we could help with like a 90-day game plan as well and get you a strategy if you're trying to get a business up and going. That's an option too. Choices. So 2 client choice options. The option 1, the client can play the victim by blaming others and making excuses. Or option 2, the client takes ownership of their life and makes thoughtful choices. And so that's the big thing. It's just like when that second session comes and you're checking on those action items, are they making excuses or are they actually taking ownership of those action items? And you want to steer them in that direction of option 2, taking ownership of those choices. So choices aren't neutral. Choices are a type of sowing, and they always reap consequences. They aren't benign or neutral. So what your client desires lies on the other side of making good choices. Making no choice is making a choice. So that's the big thing. They need to make a choice. They can't be undecided. They have to choose one way or the other on these different actions and strategies that you're putting together. Can you think of some situations where not making any choice could produce unwanted results? So just asking that question to you guys.
So I can give you an example for me. I'm a director, and so I have staff that work under me. And so as a leader, if I choose to not address a concern or an issue or just let something go, it ends up affecting not only the department, but the entire team.
Yep. Exactly. Yes. Big responsibility. Whereas it's like you can't just be stuck. You can't be stuck as a leader of like, I don't know what to do. You gotta, it's a choice you have to make, but you're thinking about it like the big picture of everybody's well-being, you know, and and you're, making a choice with your values, in mind and others' values in mind. And yeah, that's good. Keep it going. And just stressing, just choices matter. Every choice either move your client closer to or further away from their goal. So choices are a type of steering wheel in the coaching process. So that's the big thing. It's just like, what choice are you going to make? Are you going to make a choice to do these actions that we put down and committed to, or you going to make a choice not to do them, not commit to these actions to move you closer to your goal? Um, and so you'll come across avoidance issues as well. So just diving into that, avoiding pain. So one main reason people don't like to make decisions is because they don't want to make a mistake and feel the pain of failing or being wrong. So being wrong is at the top of human fears. It shakes our confidence and can be very embarrassing. Anything that makes it uncomfortable or uneasy is perceived as pain by the brain. So this is big. So just be strong, be courageous, and do the work. But yeah, doing the work requires us to make choices. This is powerful. I'm gonna read this again because it's so true. One main reason people don't like to make decisions is because they don't want to make a mistake and feel the pain of failing or being wrong. Feel the fear of failure. That's what a lot of people have, and that's what we're trying to pull people away from, is that that fear of failure, fear of failing. But just have like an agile mindset of like fail. If you fail, you're gonna get back up, fail fast. Get them towards that mindset of like, even though you could fail, this is moving you towards your goal. Don't be fearful of failing. Like, just let them know, like, I'm gonna be right there with you, accountable, keeping you accountable, and encouraging you. And no matter what, you're gonna make it to your goal, because I'm gonna push you towards there. Um, but yeah, it says being wrong is at the top of human fears. It shakes our confidence and can be very embarrassing. But yeah, anything makes us uncomfortable or uneasy is perceived as pain by the brain. So yeah, this is all coaching is about, getting people out of their comfort zone. So it's gonna feel painful for a little bit, but it's just you're walking with your client through those painful trials that they're having in their life, or just walking them through that. It gets uncomfortable, but it's good. It's good to get through it and get to that goal.
That's true. That is so true. It brought me to a situation where I remember years ago I was like caught. I was like in limbo, caught between a situation. I remember someone gave me some advice and they said, you know what? Sometimes it's a much worse feeling if you don't try it, and in the back of your mind, you wondering what would have happened if I tried. So sometimes it might be better to fail. At least you know the results, whether it's a success or whether it's a failure. At least you know. But sometimes wondering in the back of your mind what would have happened if I didn't do it is even worse than failing.
Yep, yep, exactly. And that's the encouragement right there that you give your client right there. It's like, if you don't do this, you may regret not doing it. It may feel painful, but just think about the success that you're going to have you know, if you don't fail, what if you don't fail? Instead of thinking negative, switching the light on to the positive. What if you do get through this? What if you do, take that step and talk to that person or talk to your manager? Or what if you do get that promotion? You know, just get on the other side of that negative. Get up to the positive side of the what if, not go down the pit. Yeah, that's good. Also, there's lacking clarity. So a confused mind most always says no. If someone is confused or uncertain and you ask them to make a choice, they will say no about 99.9% of the time. A lack of clarity makes it uncertain. So risk the unknown, the natural human response is to say no. And I think it's on the, well, it's a side ahead, but it's getting to that point of just, you're strategizing, doing these actions, and you want the client to actually know what they need to do, not just say, just say yes to be saying yes. Because they will do that too when they want to just say no to it. They may just say yes, but it's time to just say automatic no because the lack of clarity of the strategy that you guys put together. And that comes from them kind of from on your side, kind of put a strategy together instead of having them put it together. And so that's a big thing, is just like asking those questions and getting them to put that strategy together and it to be like really a realistic strategy that they feel good about, that they can do, and that they are certain, they're confident that they can do it. You know, religious thinking. So I don't want to get in God's way. I'm going to watch God work things out. I will wait to hear from the Lord. I'm waiting until I feel led by the Lord. I am waiting for an obvious sign from God. I don't want to disappoint God. Uh, so how would you handle a client using these statements? Are they legitimate or are they an excuse? I'll put that out there.
It could be either.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe it's ultimately the motive and the heart behind what they say. I mean, if you're operating in fear and saying you're waiting on God, uh, that's one thing. But if you truly, he hasn't given you an answer, but you're yet doing all the necessary steps. As Matthew 6:33 says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you, or delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. If you're truly seeking the Lord and seeking to be like him, and yet just praising him, and he doesn't give you an answer, it may be best to wait. But sometimes I've learned a lot of times he's given us the answer, but we're not accepting his answer. So then what we do is we seek him with the motive of trying to change his mind. Sometimes we realize it, sometimes we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's the thing, is this is more on the side of that they've gotten what you were saying, and it's just like it's it's now time for them to move and have forward motion and start to you know make make steps on those action items. And so there's time, it's kind of it's tricky when you're dealing with religious thinking a little bit, because it could be true. It could be true. Like, yes, maybe they do have to wait, but at the same time, it's just like if you have that discernment and you're like, I'm thinking God is letting me know it's time to move. Like, I'm here. You came into this session. I think God is telling me for you to move right now. If if guys are truly telling you that, tell your client that. You know, if you believe God is truly telling you that. But this is a tricky slide right here. It's a tricky slide because it's truly getting your time with God. It's trying to see if you hearing from him right, if your client is hearing from him right. um, but a lot of times it's just like what you said, Tony, that they've gotten the answer, and it's just like they need to make that forward motion, and it's not time to wait anymore. It's time to go. You got your answer. Let's go. Let's move on these actions. Let's move on this strategy. And it's time to move. And there's verbal signs as well of avoidance. So verbal hesitancy or lack of buy-in. And you don't want to end on these statements when you're making actions and strategies. And when your client says, maybe I could do that, I guess I could find the time. I should have made more of an effort. That might work. You don't want to end on that at all. You want to get them, confident in their next steps and what they're going to move forward with doing. But these are possible signals that there is no ownership or commitment to the process. So just listen out for those maybes. I guess I should, I might. So you want to get to that confidence of them, moving forward. And these are some more avoidance reasons right here. Not seeing measurable quick results, so feeling discouraged. And that's where your encouragement comes in, and cheering on your client. Like, this is good. Like, even if it's something small, this is good. You're moving in the right direction. So just letting them know, like, don't let them get discouraged, with achieving goals at a small level. It's still good. Low tolerance for frustration or resistance, fear of failure or success or any other fear. Yeah, fear. I read that wrong. Fear of failure, fear of success, or any other failure. Not buying into set or imposed goals. Lacking adequate skills or talent. The cost seems too high. Denying for change. Believing no one will help. Past failures defining present challenges. Not trusting the coaching process. And then not trusting God and not inviting him into the process. And that's when we go back to that religious thinking part too. It's just like, you saying you waiting on God, but did you ask God? Like, when the last time did you ask? You asked him like a week ago, last week? Let's go spend some time with him tonight and in the morning tomorrow, and truly hear what's saying to you. But just know, like, all this avoidance, this will happen. This will pop up. This is why we all need support to keep going. This is why we say life be life. These things will pop up. These things will pop up with your clients. And as mentioned, so forming a strategy. So we want to make smarter goals. We're making those strategies. So being specific, making sure it's measurable, attainable, relevant, timely, be able to evaluate and rewarding. So detailed goals both guide and support your ability to succeed. And just to break this down even more, what those are. So the victory is in the details. So you got specific, that means clearly define what you hope to accomplish. Measurable, measuring progress helps you stay on track. Attainable, goals should be attainable and achievable, not too far reach. Relevant, goals should be relevant and should matter. Timely, a goal without a plan and deadline is just a wish. Uh-oh. PowerPoint went out for a second. Get back. Here we go. So yeah. So as mentioned, so timely, that's a big one. You know, it's like, are we gonna get this done next week, 2 weeks from now? So put in actual dates on those actions and the overall strategy that you have, big strategy. Like, what's the goal for this? Are we trying to get this big goal done in 2 months, 3 months? Are we trying to get these actions done in a week, 2 weeks, 3 days, 5 days? You know, have some dates on there with those actions and strategies and goals. Evaluate where you are and adjust as needed. And that's a big thing too. Is if something needs to be adjusted, that's okay. That's fine. We need to adjust the goal, adjust the action items, and that will help them feel more confident in getting the actions done. Um, and then reward yourself along the way as motivation. So it may be a reward of like, oh, if you're helping your client, lose weight or whatever, like lose 20 pounds and then we'll get a new pair of shoes, or lose 50 pounds, gonna go to Disney World, something like that. Or I get to have a cheat day, whatever. But yeah, rewards are motivating as well. And these are just some questions when you're in that strategy phase, trying to get a strategy going. What is the purpose, outcome, or goal? Where exactly are you going? Are you going to do it? Who is going to do it with you or for you? What will determine that it has been achieved? Where and when are you going to start? What could possibly hold you back? So that's just thinking that's a question of thinking ahead right there. It's just like, what do you think could get in your way of achieving this goal? And just talking through that. What will help you to commit to this action? How will you reward yourself along the way? Just some key questions to ask. But yeah, the power of incremental change. Small changes over time and distance can produce big results. It's the 1 degree principle. And then have y'all heard that saying, how do you eat an elephant? Yeah.
One bite at a time.
Yep. That's what this is. They may have these big audacious goals, but they're not really that big, because you can see, like, oh, if we just chop away, one bite at a time, that we'll get to this big goal that we've set. And then taking actions. So your strategy and actions. Clients usually come to coaching to do things differently and to do different things. They want to set goals, come up with the plans, get into action. The end result of coaching is an action step of some kind, and use the accountability of coaching to stay on track. So clients want to be in motion, not standing still. And that's from Coach Laura Whitworth. Nothing new happens for your client until there is a new action step. Always end the coaching sessions with a commitment to take an action step. And this, like I said, this is why I've been saying about every week, make sure there's action steps. That's a key part of coaching, is making sure your client has action steps, because that's how we That's how we measure. That's how we see how committed they are, and see how see them inch closer to their goals. Is hitting those action steps and creating new action steps, and it's motivation. It's motivation to keep going when they're knocking those action steps out. And right here, the science behind baby steps. UCLA behavior scientist Dr. Robert Moorer found that any change a person experiences, good or bad, is perceived as a threat by the brain and can stop them from taking action. Therefore, the ideal way to avoid triggering that fear response is to make the perceived change so small that it's impossible for someone to fail at it. This is a micro commitment, a small baby step someone can take to move forward without feeling fear around their action. So that's what it's about. Making those small actions that they can commit to, they feel confident about. All right, take note of these questions. These will pop up on the exam as well. So explain the 1 degree principle, and how it's used in coaching, and then also what are smarter goals. So you'll have those questions on the exam coming up real soon. After you submit your coaching scenarios, submit those, and I'll be able to send you that exam after week 10. And then homework right here, review the breakthrough coaching model as presented in the class notes and write down any questions you still have about the model and its use. So bring those questions to the class next week or the week after, whichever we choose. And then homework, also review the entire course, write down any questions you may have about coaching in general. That's your homework. And then read the coaching scenario in the class notes, and then write down notes to share in class about how to coach the client using the breakthrough coaching model. And also it's a printout coaching model worksheet to use for the scenario. But yeah. Any other questions?